Hey everyone, now I'm going to show you my project and what my intentions were behind creating this type of a project. So the first thing that I wanted to start out with, and you'll notice this right away, is that this isn't just an ordinary slide, this is a pick many slide. And I also have a results slide. So one of the things that I wanted to do that I guess would kind of be a hack is I wanted to track exactly what they click on in this room. And I didn't want to score it by points or anything. I just want to know what people selected, and then I want to send what they selected to the results slide when they go off into another room. So what I did was I have the hotspots as my pick many objects, and when I go to my form view, you can see they're all here. But perhaps that I would rename them to be exactly what I wanted them to show up as in my learning management system. And maybe I wouldn't even use a pick many slide. Maybe I would go and create a new slide, and you could even just use one of these graded ones and move them off to the side. Well, I guess not move them off to the side, but you could trigger another layer to pop up and not view the bottom layer that has these choices, and set them to whatever your objects are, and then you could put your actual answers as something like clicked on this or selected that. And then that could send to the learning management system. So just a different way of tracking. So it's not like people are actually selecting answers, they're selecting objects, and you know what objects they selected, which is pretty cool. So that was my thinking behind this. And then another piece of this is the Photoshop piece. So this project took me about 3 hours, and I would say I think this is something that a lot of instructional designers and e-learning developers run into, is the design aspect. We don't always plan super well for this. I was like, what height and width am I going to use for my background? I didn't really plan that. So basically I was just like, I'll Photoshop the background because that, I'm used to doing that. And one of the issues that I ran into, which is like so small but so time consuming, and that's what took up most of my time, like building this was super fast. Like I literally built this in like 30 minutes. The Photoshop piece was the hard piece. So as I go down my slide layer, and I know nothing's organized really well or named really well, but if I go down and start unclicking some of these pictures here, you guys will see I just have this regular picture, and if I turn this off, you're not going to see anything. And if I turn it off and then turn one of these on, you can see I have each of these objects here. So I have this like wiring down here, and if I go to states, you can see it has this state on it. And if I did turn it to normal, because I have them hidden, and then when you select them they turn to normal, you can see the red outline around it. So the tricky part about this is, first of all, I put in my slide background, and then I realized, oh no, I didn't fit the picture to the slide, and then I'm putting all these images in and they're lining up perfectly, but then I moved my background and I forgot to move my images, and then I published it, and then I clicked on something and they weren't aligned properly. So like the planning aspect of making sure everything fits perfectly and aligned perfectly is so important, and it becomes something that's super time consuming if you don't plan for it right away. So the other aspect of this, which the reasoning why it took me like 3 hours, was I was editing some of the code outside of this because I like my background to be transparent. As you saw in the demo that I showed you, the background's completely transparent, and if I hadn't turned it to transparent, then you would have seen not that red flash around it, you would have seen this like grayish color here. So if I didn't do that, then that would have been messed up. And as well, I have the code for the audio looping in the background. It's not actually in this storyline either. And then another thing is, I wanted to resize my storyline file, and sometimes it gets a little wonky if you resize it in here after you designed it. So basically like what I did was there's some settings in the code as well that you can easily resize any project without everything going all wonky. And I can show you guys that at another time. So I'll go ahead and reselect everything so you can see it. And then let's talk a little bit about my triggers over here. So another piece that I added for some more depth is when you click on some of the hover spots, you get some cool audio that goes along with it. And I think that just adds a little bit more to this project because it's an environment. It feels more like gamified. I think someone said it reminded them of Myst, which is pretty cool. I like Myst. And then, just like I had said, each object is at the state of hidden, and then when they select it, it becomes visible and has that red around it, like this electrical piece. And then when you click on each of these, you'll notice that you get a different text that comes up, but you can still see everything in the background. And the reason why this went really fast in development is I made one of them and I just duplicated the same one and changed the text inside, and so that makes everything super fast. So that's basically what I did for that. And then I have the JavaScript in here for changing the background color. So I initiate the background color when the timeline starts as this background color. And then you'll notice that in each of these slide layers, when they click on this and the red goes around the object, and let's go to the wiring one, the first thing that happens is the background color changes to the same color as the selection around the wiring. Like the red's a little bit harsh. I just didn't feel like going back into Photoshop and changing the stroke color. So it's basically that harsh red color. And you can see right here, it's a different one. So every time it goes back to the main slide, it goes right back to that grayish color instead of the red color. So that makes it super easy. Let's see what else is there to talk about with this. So, so the other part is this group here. When you click on this laboratory piece, it will take you to this final slide. And this is what I was talking about before. I think this will be about the last thing that I cover. This is where I would put the submit button. So what I would do is I wouldn't say jump to, but if I wanted to actually submit this data to the learning management system, and we have the results slide here so we could do that, what I would do is I would go to submit results, click this, and then I would say maybe when the timeline starts. That's just what I'm thinking of right now. So as soon as they go to the next room, I'm going to submit these results. Because they might see something that comes up like you're going to the next room, and then they submit the results and then it takes them to the next room. But there's a million different ways you can do this. So that's basically my project. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope this was really cool. I had a fun time working on this one, and hopefully I get to create more cool stuff like this.